So today we're going to talk about how to master Google Ads for paving companies. And this is a very important subject. What we see in our data is that on average, about a third of, for the average paving company, about a third of your leads should be coming from Google Ads. And so it's a very important thing to be aware of and to do. We recommend it for everybody. And I'm going to talk in more detail about that today and just help you understand how it works and so on and so forth. Okay. Let me open the Q&A window here just in case someone has a question. And we will get started. Okay. So what we'll cover today, we'll talk about why paid marketing is key to unlimited scalability in terms of lead flow. And so we say paid marketing because it's not just Google Ads. There are other things like Yelp, which is not big for paving companies. They don't really have categories for it. Facebook ads, even things like Angie, which we're not going to talk about here today. But the way to think about this is that of all your customers, they shop differently. Even just within the search results, they shop differently. So you want to be omnipresent because some people are going to buy in one place and they won't look in another place. And so you want to make sure you're available in the places that people search and want to buy. Okay. So we'll talk about Google Ads specifically today, but all of this applies to all of these sorts of things. We'll talk about some results that we see, how to set things up, and that's it. Pretty simple, straightforward. It should be a pretty quick one today. So why should you listen to me? I wrote online marketing for paving companies. I own Paving Marketers, where we focus on digital advertising for paving companies. I've been doing this a long time. The agency I founded in 2011 is still active and doing well. So I and also members of my team have been doing this for a very long time. So we know what we're doing, but we have particular expertise in the paving industry. And so I think, and I hope you'll find what I have to say to be valuable. And we have a bunch of paving company customers. So this isn't just theory. We learn this every day in what we do for our customers. So if you've been on any of my webinars before, you've probably seen this, but we teach and we try to execute this accelerated growth model, which we use in our own business and recommend for everybody. It's really, at least in the online space, how you go ahead and drive results. And so number one, to have a business, you got to drive leads, which really means, driving traffic and getting people to your site. Number two is maximizing conversion. So once you have people there, measure and test and find ways to get more of them to raise their hand and say, yeah, I want to talk to you. Okay. And then the third part is optimize results. So you get this data, you got this traffic, you get some leads from various sources. What's giving you the best ROI? What's your average cost per lead? Can I improve that? Where should I invest more? And then you invest more and you go back to the beginning, driving more leads, driving more traffic. Okay. And this is more detail on that. And today we're really going to focus on paid search and specifically Google Ads. So why should paid search be a part of your internet marketing strategy? Really, the main reason is, especially if you're new to this, you start showing up quickly. It's one of those things where you just get traction right away. And, while it may cost more per lead, you can control it to some extent. And again, you want to show up as often as possible where your customers are looking. So you don't just want to rank in the maps. You don't just want to rank organically. You also want to be in that ad set. You want to be everywhere because different people interact with different parts of it. So you want to be in all of them. It also allows you to be more accurate in terms of the services that you're targeting. So we'll talk to people sometimes who are really more focused on seal coating or maintenance or striping, and they don't have the equipment necessarily to do paving jobs. The milling and the laying down the asphalt, things like that. They don't really want those because they might subcontract them out. Well, when you're doing SEO and building out the website, you can't really avoid driving those leads. It's just a part of how you're going to show up in search for paving. But you can control that in Google Ads by only bidding on those services that you want those jobs for. And so you don't have to bid on parking lot paving. You don't have to bid on, residential blacktop or whatever. You can set that aside and focus your ad spend on those services that you actually want to drive and focus on. And unlimited scalability, up to a point, you can always spend more money and get more leads. And so if you've tapped out what you can do in your market, at that point, it's time to look at, well, maybe I need to open another location. Okay. And this is just an example, where the ads show up, they're at the top of the page. Of course they are, because that's how Google makes their money. And they're not a $60+ billion company because they're fools. They know how to get the money. So let's talk about why most Google Ads campaigns fail. And there's really several reasons. I would say these are probably the most important ones. And the first is you fail to understand the Google Ads auction process and the complexity of the paving industry. So the way that this works is it's an auction. So everybody who wants to advertise for a keyword has a bid that they're willing to pay. And Google looks at those bids, but also looks at what you're offering. It looks at your landing page, it looks at your ad text, and assigns your ad a quality score, which is a measure of how good they think it is relative to user experience. And the winner of the auction is a combination of how much you bid and your quality score. And you will actually pay less for a top spot if you have a good quality score. So if you don't know that and you don't know how to optimize for that, you're always going to pay more, and you're going to have a hard time, because you will never outspend a competitor with a better quality score, because they'll always beat you if they're bidding the minimum, which if they have a good quality score, generally that means they're taking it seriously and they're doing what they need to do well. So you have to be aware of this, and failing to understand that is going to make it challenging for you. Okay. The next thing is set up only one ad group for all services. And these examples here are from another deck, not relevant to you, but understand you want one ad group for seal coating, one ad group for striping, one ad group for commercial, and more specifically parking lot maintenance, maybe, or paving. You want the big parking lot job. Separate one for driveways, things like that. So you break them up by service and you align them with landing pages that match. Okay. Failing to do that is setting yourself up for failure. It's not going to work if you mix that all together, because when you mix it all together, you get bad quality scores. This was what it boils down to. The next one is if you don't use specific text ads and landing pages for those ad groups or those groups of keywords. So again, you've got an ad group, you want your ad text to match that, and you want your landing page to match that. And that combination of things is what gives you the quality score. Okay, so all these things work together. You got to do them right, or your campaign's not going to do well. The last thing here is no strong call to action or offer on the landing page. So you have to give the searcher a reason to call you. If they're shopping, they're looking for someone they can trust to do the job well and give them a fair price. And you kind of have to know what's going on in your market. You have to know if your competitors are making offers or not. You don't want to make an offer necessarily that others aren't if you don't have to, or making an offer might help you get that call. So you have to have awareness of what's going on in your market, and you have to make an offer that resonates with your customer. If everybody's offering free estimates and it's an expectation, if everybody, then that's not an offer. That's like, oh, well, they offer free estimates. Great. I better call them. No, it has to be something different and something valuable that will incite them to call you. So that's an offer. Call to action would be just, call something. You make it easy to call. And we'll show you some examples of landing pages and stuff that have some of that. The other big reason that Google Ads campaigns fail is because you don't use landing pages. and you just send all of your traffic to the homepage. And that's a very common mistake. We see it all the time. That being said, you can do that sometimes if you know what you're doing. We will do that sometimes if we find that landing pages are performing below our expectations. We may test them against just sending traffic directly to the website to see if that works better. But we're doing that in the context of testing against our known kind of benchmarks of results, and we know what we're doing. And so if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to test these things, you don't know how to do bid adjustments and all these various technical things involved, don't do this, because you're going to have a hard time tracking things. It's not going to work out well for you. Okay. So let's talk about some examples. Can PPC or Google Ads specifically really drive results and ROI for Paving Business? So let's talk about some PPC case studies. So here's an example of May to July last year for one customer. Tons of leads. Average cost per lead worked out to be about $17.98. This was a very high performing campaign. Cost per leads aren't usually that low, but that was great. And let's talk about what that might look like from an ROI standpoint. So if you've got 322 leads, and let's say you only convert 20% of those. Now, that's maybe a little low, but we'd rather be conservative here. That means you're going to turn those 322 leads into 64 booked jobs. And let's say your average ticket or your average estimate, your average sale, whatever you want to call it, is about $2,000, $2,335. That's actually about half the number that we find. I think it's closer to 4,000 on average when you factor in residential and commercial. Let's just say it's 2,000, just to be conservative. Okay, so we're trying to be on the low end here. Your numbers might be higher than. So if those 64 jobs averaged 2,335, then that's going to give you about $150,000 in revenue. Okay, now the spend on that, if you look at the cost per lead, which includes what you pay us, cost per lead on that is $5,789. So 150,000 divided by 5,800 basically is a 25 times return on your investment at the top level. Now, let's look at your margin, because everybody knows margins paving can be challenging sometimes. So let's say you have a 15% margin, which is a fair average. It's higher in some areas, it's lower in some areas, but that's certainly the margin you should be shooting for on your projects. Is you want to get that 15% margin. That's a healthy margin for paving. So say you're getting 50% margin, that means it's a $22,000 profit on that business, or a 4x bottom line ROI. So what this shows is, even if you have a low conversion rate and your average estimate to sale is low, you still see not only a very high top line return on investment, but an actual profitable return on your investment relative to your spend. And that's, of course, what you want to see, right? If you're spending money on marketing, you want to see a return. Another example is similar. There's another one with 300 leads, a similar cost per lead, and numbers are basically the same: a 26x ROI, 4x bottom line ROI. So there's multiple examples of this. Even when the cost per lead's higher, you play with the numbers. We have calculators for this. If you call Jason, we can share a calculator with you. You can put in your own numbers here and see how it looks. But paving is a business where the tickets, the estimates are high enough that you should see a return. Question coming in: what do you recommend for a monthly spend on Google Ads, and how do you determine that number? That's a great question. So there's two answers to that. The first is, you want to understand how much is available in the back of your mind. But there isn't a recommended one, because it's different for every market, different for every person. You may not be able to take on as much work as you could potentially accumulate from Google Ad spend. So what we recommend to our customers is, and if you're not a customer, I'd give you the same recommendation. You want to start relatively low. And relatively low is somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 per month. And that might seem high to some of you, but I'll tell you why it's not. Google is an algorithm. It's a black box, and you have to give it enough data and input for it to work. So if you don't, what happens is you just it can't get over the hill. There's just not enough for it to figure out, what your quality scores are, all the various things that it does. There's not enough conversions, so it doesn't work. So minimum $1,000, maybe more depending on your market, but bare minimum 1,000, about $30 a day, and that generally should be enough to help you understand what your lead costs are in Google Ads specifically. And we would say the average we see is anywhere from $30 to $50 per lead. Now that's across portfolio. Going after parking lots will be more. Maybe going after striping will be less. You understand. Broadly speaking, $30 to $50 range cost per lead in Google Ads. And so spend $1,000, see how the leads are, see how they convert. Is it profitable? And then what you have is data. What you have is, we can see. You probably don't know how to do this if you don't know Google Ads, but once you have that data, you have the auction data, you have things like your impression share, you kind of see who the other advertisers are. And so you can understand what's going on from a data standpoint in your local market. And then our team, can make specific recommendations to you, being like, okay, yeah, you can spend X, Y, or Z because there's still impression share left on the table. In other words, you could be more visible. Here's how much more we think you can spend to be more visible. And if you know your cost per lead, and it's okay, I'm going to double my spend, that's going to double my leads generally. And so, but it all starts from having the data, knowing what the costs are, knowing what your conversion rates are, so you really know what those leads translate to in terms of booking jobs on your calendar, and then understand your capacity to take on more work. And all those things go together to say, all right, you tell me I can spend $5,000 a month. I know I could probably only have the capacity to take on $3,000 a month worth of jobs. So let's do $3,000 a month. And that's how you do it. So you just have to have the data, because the data lets you make informed decisions about what you could get. And then you have to look at your business practices and say, okay, this is what I think I can reasonably do. And that's what sets the spend. So it's custom for everybody, but that's how we think about it. And that's how we recommend that you think about it also. Okay. Great question. So moving on, how to set up and structure your pay-per-click marketing campaign for maximum cost per lead and maximum ROI. Sorry, minimum cost per lead. You don't want maximum cost per lead. So I would say the number one thing is conversion tracking. And there's various ways to do this. You can do it in Google Ads. We use software right now called What Converts, which tracks everything. But you must do that, because if you don't do that, you will never know what your cost per lead is. And you always want to double check Google, because Google will report something, and sometimes there's a mismatch. Not often, but sometimes there's a mismatch between what Google tells us happened and what we actually measure on the website. And there's various reasons for that, but you got to track it. That's how you get the numbers, and the numbers tell you what's next. Okay. As I said before, your campaign must be broken into smaller ad groups targeting specific services, and ads and text and everything have to match that. If you're going to do this yourself, make sure you have a strong understanding of keyword match types, and don't forget about negative keywords. So keyword match types, Google used to let you bid on like one word. Like, I just want this word. Now they've taken that away. Even when you try to do exact match, they still sneak around that and add more words in there. Why? Because they want more money. And as a corollary, something we've been dealing with a lot lately, don't ever talk to Google reps. They are third-party people, and they're awful. Their advice is stupid. They scare you. And their recommendations are insane. And this happens to us all the time, where we have customers who are like, hey, Google called, and they said, we're not optimized. And we're like, oh, here we go again. And I understand why people want to believe them, because they say they're from Google. But I would just like to submit, and I'll tell you, don't believe them. They read from Google scripts. Their job is to get you to spend as much money as possible, and they don't care about your results. And they wouldn't know how to get your results if you asked them. These are not how they're often foreign call centers. They have no clue what they're doing. Run fast, far away from them. And no, we won't get on calls with them. We guess, hey, we get a call them? No, we're not going to do that. And let me help you understand why not to believe that. When you have a problem with Google, have you ever been able to get them on the phone? Have you ever been able to get them in a live chat? The answer, of course, is no. You cannot get Google to answer you for anything. When you have even a billing problem, good luck. It's all tickets, it's all email. You will never get someone on the phone. But suddenly they're going to call you because they're concerned about what's going on in your Google account and they want it to do better for you. I hope with the way that I presented it, you understand, don't believe them. And their advice is horrendous. This just happened yesterday. It wasn't in our paving business, another business that I own. We had an excellent campaign that was performing well, and Google comes in and be like, hey, it's not working well enough. They completely wrecked it. It's going to cost our customer probably $2,000 to $3,000 in ad spend to fix what they just broke. So don't do it. It's very, very bad. I should really have a slide just on that, but every time I get into this stuff, it reminds me it's annoying. And they seem to be hunting right now because we've probably received about 10 calls this week from customers being like, hey, Google called me. Don't do it. All right. So yeah, negative keywords. So yeah, I got it because of keyword match types. So another example of Google's greed is you can't spin a single word. They're going to go around that, even if you do exact match. What we don't want to do is broad match because they'll just throw everything in the kitchen sink in there at you. And don't forget about negative keywords. So you might find that you're showing up for terms you don't want that are irrelevant. You can add negative keywords, which tells Google, hey, if this word is in the search, don't show my ad, please. They generally respect that. So you got to use it. It's an important tool. If you don't know how to do that, don't run Google Ads. Okay? I mean, by yourself. Pay someone who knows what they're doing to do it. You need to write compelling text. We talked about that. Leverage ad extensions. This is things like connecting your Google business profile so that your reviews can be shown, or your location can be shown. It's a very powerful ad extension. Things like that. Have great landing pages and test stuff, split test stuff. You got to test ads. You got to test landing pages. You know, we have the industry data because we run Google Ads for so many payment companies. We know if something looks off. You're not going to know that. You're not going to even have targets, but you can still try to beat the control. You know what that means? Like, here's an ad. It gives me this cost per lead. Let me try this ad and see if it does better. Keep the winner. Test again. That's what testing is. Okay. And again, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I will continue. So don't even think about spending another penny till you have conversion tracking in place. Like I said, it's that important. You're wasting your money if you're not tracking that. As far as essentials for conversion tracking, the way that we do it is by dynamic number swapping. A lot of people don't like this, but it's valuable enough that you really should do it. If you insist that we don't do it, we won't do it, but you really lose a lot of valuable data. And in our view, no one remembers what your phone number is. No one's got it written on their fridge. They're going to look you up anyway. And it doesn't matter what phone number is shown on your website because they're always just going to Google you no matter what. So don't worry about that. Worry about understanding your data because that's going to get you more customers. But that's what dynamic number swapping is it replaces the number on your website with one that is tracked so we can see, was this a Google Ads call? Was this a Google Maps call? Did this come from organic search? Did this come from Bing? Did this come from Yelp? We can see all these things when we do dynamic number swapping. It was very important. That's all I want to say about that one. So KPIs to track. Obviously, you want to keep track of your total spend. You want to be aware of your average cost per click, but it really doesn't matter. Cost per click is not what matters. It's cost per lead. I don't care if my cost per click is $30. My cost per lead, I get a lead every single time. That's great. But if my cost per click is $2, but I never get a lead, that cost per click is meaningless to me. So it's all about your cost per lead, which is why I got to track conversions. Like I said before, The average that we see in PPC in paving is 30 to 50. Depends on the market, how competitive it is. What we do is we just try to get it as low as possible in your market. And there's lots of different things that we do to do that. Some of which I don't know because I don't do it anymore. Well, this is what you want to do. And obviously your return on investment, as we talked before. So an example of how to structure it, as mentioned before, break it into thematically clustered things that make sense. So you can do a general asphalt paving, you can do that. You can focus on commercial paving, one that targets people looking for paving companies, seal coating, repair, maintenance. If you do concrete, you can focus on concrete. So however you slice it up, and we just had the slide put together. This wasn't done by my PPC guys, but the grouping is good enough. The grouping we do depends on your services in your area, but it's along these lines. And so you just want them to thematically match. What the specific grouping is going to depend on you, what's going on in your market, and what you in particular want to push. Okay. This is an example of what the Google Ads backend looks like. Don't really have anything to say here. Best performing text ads. So what I would say for this is I recommend, so one of the things that we do is we track the top 25 markets across the United States 4 times a day. We pull some of the main queries. We look at who's running ads. We look at what ads they have, what keywords they're running on. We collect all this data and we publish it to a dashboard, which we update 4 times per day. And we look at that for ad text examples, because if you're running these ads in the top 25 markets, these are highly competitive markets. People who are running ads are generally know what they're doing because it costs more, and you get some great ideas there for ads. And so everyone on this call, everyone watching the replay, I recommend you get access to this dashboard, and we will include a link to get to that in the replay that we send out. So check that out. It's really great information. You're going to see a lot of ads, and you'll get an idea of what people are doing out there. Furthermore, if you do a call with us, we'll run the report for your area and tell you what your competitors are running for ads too, if you want to see that. So, I'm not going to get into the details of how to put together ads here. This is a good one that's performing well. Very great click-through rate, 22%. That's huge. Find examples, start from there, test examples versus examples, and just keep trying to get better and better results. That's how Google Ads works. And as far as landing pages, it's the same sort of thing. So a couple things that I'd say about landing pages. Number one, show your people. When you're just a faceless business online, when people can see you, see your team, see your equipment, they get to know you a little bit. Makes them feel comfortable calling you because you're real people. Make it easy to call them. Give them a click to call. Put your reviews on there. Put some testimonials. Put some before and after pictures. Show your work. Show who you are. That's some of the strongest stuff you can do on landing pages, because it's going to make people feel comfortable that they're dealing with real people. It's a real company. It's not like a home advisor, or not Angie, where they kind of trick you into submitting this form and then you got 10 different people calling you. People don't like that. They want to see you. Hey, these guys look all right. Look like they got their equipment. Look like a legit company. Been around 50 years. Awesome. I'll call these guys. Let's get a quote from them. That's it. That's all you want. Okay. Similar example here. Give them different ways to go. Here you got an offer, right? 5% off. Hey, paving jobs aren't cheap. 5% is a lot of money. Fill the form if you want. Give them a call if you want. Make it easy. Let them reach out to you the way you like. So, questions to ask your PPC provider. I'm not going to read through all of these. You can look at it on the replay if you want to pause it. It's really just the things that we've been talking about. You want to make sure they're doing them. What we're talking about here is not rocket science. We're not reinventing the wheel. These are pretty standard best practices in the industry, in every industry. So make sure they're doing what they should be. And one example, if they can't tell you what your cost per lead is, then they're not doing it right for you. If you can't email them or call them and be like, hey, I'm just wondering what my cost per lead is for Google Ads, if they can't look that up and tell you, don't work with them because they don't know what they're doing. Okay, it's not that hard to figure out. And if they can or won't tell you, not someone you should be dealing with. How much of my budget will go to Google ad spend versus management fees? So this is another one. You should own your Google Ads account, and you should be able to see everything that's going on in there. And if you decide to leave who you're working with, that should come with you. Unfortunately, a lot of marketing companies don't do it that way. Think of Haibu, for example, and there's more, but they basically set up a Google account for you, and then they tell you what your cost was, but they don't actually show you the Google Ads reports. And what's happening is they're charging you up, they're upselling your ad spend. They're charging you a premium on your ad spend for managing it. And when you leave, you don't get to keep that data. So it's not yours, but it should be. You're spending the money. It's your ad spend. You're paying Google for that data, and they're basically hijacking it from you and keeping it. And we think that's wrong. I think that's wrong. Your Google Ads account is an asset of your business that you should control and you should take with you wherever you go. That's just honest. That's just honest dealings. So if they keep your Google Ads account or won't show you what's in it, get out of there. They're not looking out for you. All the rest of these is stuff we're covered. I'm not going to go through that, but just those are the two big things. Do you own your ads account? And can you tell me what my cost per lead is? If they can't do that, they're probably not the right fit for you or anybody else. So what makes our campaigns better or different? And like I said, what really makes us better and different, frankly, is we just have a lot of data on the paving industry. If you pick some local provider, even if they've worked with one paving company before, they are not going to know what we know. They just won't. You learn this stuff by doing it. We've overseen countless thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of ad spend specifically for paving companies. So you won't find that many other places. So that's number one. As far as any advanced things that we do in the management, I would say the main one is we are pretty aggressive and careful with bidding, which I'm not sure that a lot of agencies do. And so we structure it, and this is one thing that Google hates. That's why they call our company, is because we take an approach that allows us to fine tune things. So these Google reps have their scripts like, well, you need to be running conversion campaigns. Well, no, you don't. That's what Google wants you to do. But it's actually better for you to run a maximize clicks campaign because it gives you many more options to adjust your bid strategies. Now, these Google people from a third world, a non-US country, they don't know this. They just know the little script that Google has for them, and they'll wreck your campaign. So bid strategies is one of the most important things that we do and can do because it's based on your local competitors. So let me give you an example. Say one of your local competitors is very heavily targeting parking lots. They want to get all the parking lots. They're spending more on parking lots. Well, we can see that, and we can decide to respond and also make a bid adjustment specifically on the parking lots ad group so that we're not left behind and you're not missing that business. It's stuff like that that can make a huge difference. But if you're asleep at the switch, or if they're, they set it up for you and just kind of leave it and don't manage it, you're not going to get the best results you could. Okay, that's what we do different. And we very heavily focus on conversion tracking, conversion optimization. Again, we manage around the cost per lead because that's the most important metric for getting you profitable results. And so that's what our focus is. Okay. Pause for questions. If you have any, drop in the chat. I don't see any new ones. Think about what I've covered, what you've learned, what questions you might have. If not, that's okay. You can always reply to the emails that go out, and we'll be happy to answer there. So I just got one more thing I want to cover, and that is retargeting automation. Excuse me. So what retargeting is if you've ever shopped for like a vacuum cleaner on Target, and then suddenly you feel like vacuum cleaners are following you around the internet, that's what retargeting is. And you want to do that. Especially when people are shopping, the ones who will stay more top of mind are the ones who retarget and who follow people around. It's pretty simple to do. It's relatively cheap, but you want to be doing it. That's really all I'm going to say about that. The other thing you want to do is automation. And I will tell you a pet peeve of mine, because it happens to me all the time. It drives me crazy. Have you ever filled out a form for a local service provider and you don't know if it went through and you never hear back from them? It happens to me all the time. It's the craziest thing. I've been trying to schedule maintenance on my zero-turn mower because it's cheaper in the winter, right? So why not? For like 3 weeks, I've sent the four in like 4 times. I've called them 4 times. They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll get back to you." They never do. It's insane. I don't know how people stay in business that way. Same thing. We had a external pest control issue. Fill out a form, never heard back from. How much business you think those guys are losing by not answering their forms? It's insane. And I'll tell you why that happens. Because whoever is managing their stuff set it up so maybe it sends an email, but they don't, check email deliverability. And a lot of times those emails end up in spam. And so whoever's monitoring it at the company, they don't know to check the spam folder for all those emails. They never see them. Now, there's multiple ways around this. You set up your email deliverability, right? Like we do. We use Mailgun. There's things that you do that make sure those mails are delivered. But more importantly, you should have an automation sequence. What does that mean? So when someone fills out a form, that should trigger an email back to them, being like, "Hey, thanks for the email. We've received your information. Here's what's going to happen next." Okay. The customer should get that email. Second, you should get that email. Like, "Hey, this customer just filled this information. Here's what you need to do." And then you can take this 1,000 different directions from there. If you register for this webinar, you got a sequence, right? If you're on our email list, you get automation sequences. For this, you're going to get another one. You're going to get a replay. You'll get an invitation to schedule a call with us. These are automations. You can do this on your forms on your website too, and we recommend that you do, because it's a better experience for your customer. They know they reached you, and it's less likely that you lose that business. Okay, so it's extremely important. And it's important from the beginning too, because if you're not following up with customers right away, they're going to call somebody else, and missing that form is deadly. And they may be interested, and they might not get back to you right away. So you want to kind of bug them a little bit. Be like, "Hey, we're still thinking of you. You want this estimate? We gave you the estimate. Let's say give them an estimate. Have an automation that goes with that. Being like, have you read the estimate? Do you have any questions?" Like kind of ping them automatically weekly. Do these sorts of things. That's going to increase your stats in a very helpful way. And it says here, today's consumer prefers to interact via text message versus phone call or email. That's totally true. I hate it. I text message my wife. I don't want to text message like the plumber. It's just weird to me. But for the younger generations, that's how they want to do it. So you can be stubborn and say, "I'm not doing it," or you figure out how to do it. And that's what we do. Blah, blah, blah. I covered this stuff. This is more details on automation and retargeting. But I think that's good enough. I think you get the idea. So one more question. Do you think it's possible to coordinate targeting automation with both email and postcards? Yes. That's another fantastic question. So the way that I would think about this is, and it depends too, I will say, sorry, I'm fighting off a cold here, how you're doing the postcard targeting and what kind of data you have. So if you have a list that has emails and the addresses that you're sending the postcards to, that's a gold mine. And you can absolutely coordinate them in a very fine-tuned way. And I'll tell you how. So you find out from the postcard company when they're going to drop. You have the emails, and you coordinate kind of a pre and post email sequence. Like, say the postcards are all going to land next week. So the week before, send an email, just a broad email. Hey, we're going to send you a postcard or what, like whatever. Use the same marketing message, but let them know, hey, we're going to drop something in the mail for you next week. And I get a postcard. And the next week, follow up with another email. So you've got email, postcard, email, right? Because you got to have the email to do that. So the list has to match. The other thing you can do with that email list is you can run Facebook ads to it. Because with email lists, you can set up Facebook custom audiences, which are, with every email on that list, they can match with a Facebook account. You can show them that ad. You can also do a lookalike. So say you pull a bunch of data on like apartment buildings, okay? Because they got parking lots generally, right? Or say churches and parking lots. So you have this big list of churches, parking or apartment buildings, whichever, with email addresses. You can match those to a custom audience in Facebook and then make a lookalike, and they'll find all the other ones in the area that look like that, and you can run ads to those. Okay, so having those emails and those addresses opens up all these opportunities. So you can have a planned postcard drop, have an email before and after, and during that whole time, run Facebook ads targeting that list. And so you're kind of showing up everywhere around these customers that you're dropping the postcards to. So it's a fantastic way to do it. And yeah, it's totally doable. But it comes down to, do you have the list with emails? If you have the list with emails, everything's opened up to you. Great question. All right, so that's all I got. So one of the things that we do is a free market report. So if you want to talk to us, we're just not going to try to sell you stuff. We're going to look at your market. We're going to pull this data and we're going to show it to you. And we're going to say, hey, here's your opportunities. Here's how your competitors are doing. Here's what it looks like. Here's where we see that you can have some improvement. And then sure, we'll show you what we offer, but we want you to take value out of the meeting. So it's not just, it's not just a timeshare presentation, right? That kind of silly stuff. We want you to have actionable stuff you can do on your own if you decide not to work with us. So if you want to do that, go to pavingmarketers.com/apply now, and you'll schedule a call with us, and you will trigger an automation sequence. And it will bug you. It'll send you a bunch of information, and it'll bug you to show up for that call. And we do that because it increases our show up rates. So people forget, people are busy. But we've seen with automation sequences, we double our show up rate for these calls. And the more show ups we have, the more people buy from us. So these are the sorts of things that go directly to your bottom line. They're very important to learn how to do and execute, or find someone who can do them for you. Okay. If you're a phone person, just dial us 262-295-2995. Jason will answer. He can set up that call with you also. So I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to wrap. Thanks so much for joining today. I hope it was valuable for you. The replay will go out probably tomorrow, along with a link to get to that dashboard. And any questions, you can always reply to the email and set up a call with us. So thanks for joining, and we will see you next month.